You are listening to In the Dog Pound with Eric Metcalf, Mike Tomzak, Frank Stams. Hanford Dixon is on vacation, or I could say MIA. Leroy Horde said, "Let's do it next week." He's busy. And he's on injured reserve. Hey, listen, man, this time of year, you guys know this. You got to play hurt, and we play hurt on In the Dog Pound, raw and unfiltered, found everywhere where you find your favorite podcasts. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Eric. You were talking about your cigar deal.
So yeah, we got EM21s. We released them like a couple years ago, but we didn't go all in. So now we have to reorg some things and make some new stick cigars and everything. So we'll be re-releasing soon, like in the next week or two. It was supposed to happen January 21st, but we had some minor setbacks. But yeah.
This is how brain dead I am. So I'm thinking EM21. What kind of cigar is that? And I was actually going to ask you, what is that? Like length, girth? What is that? EM21.
Extra menthol. Extra menthol.
Hey, first of all, whenever you're talking cigars or whatever, or something you put in your mouth, let's not say girth.
Right.
Right. Let's not use that word.
You know what? I'm glad you picked up on that, because that was intended.
Right. It's ring gauge when you're speaking cigars. Ring gauge.
Oh, ring gauge.
For example, what are you smoking right there?
This is actually Julius Caesar Diamond Crown that you gave me.
Right on. You hear that, Browns Nation?
That's
We're sharing that stuff here in the Dog Pound. It's raw and it's serious stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's the ring size there?
Ring gauge.
Oh, ring gauge.
So it's a torpedo.
Well, for all you cigar aficionados,
huh?
Eric Metcalf, the EM21 will be unveiled sometime February or early relaunch. Yes.
We'll keep you posted for sure.
I'm sure we'll share it. We'll share it on our podcast and where you can get it. I'd like to puff on that, Big Daddy. Not like Snoop Dogg, but like E-Met. Hey,
so that's the name. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is that the name of your cigar, the EM21?
Yeah, and then we'll just have different blends of it in different sizes.
Nice.
Yes.
EM21 sounds like something out of Stripes. That vehicle they took into Czechoslovakia or wherever they took it into.
Ukraine,
urban assault vehicle. Yeah. Anyways,
beautiful.
I digress.
It seems like that's the big fad, right? I mean, Joe Burrow didn't get a chance to puff one up after the game, and I saw who was it? Patrick Mahomes' dad puffing on one after the game. So, that's like Red Auerbach. Remember him, Frank? Red Auerbach?
Yeah. Head coach of the Boston Celtics. Yeah. I always, when the game was, and Eric remembers him too. The game was in the bag. That was back in the day when sports were freaking cool. All right, you can light up a cigar on the bench, huh? Yeah. That when the sports are not sports. Hey. Money commercialization has destroyed not only professional sports but college sports too,
what was even
and high school sports.
That you mentioned that is that they used to smoke cigars on the bench. They used to smoke in the locker room. They used to smoke cigarettes on the bench and in the locker room. They used to drink beer in the locker room.
When I first came into the league in '85, they were huffing and puffing. A few of these guys, and I remember as a kid going to Soldier Field, and those guys in the sideline, the equipment managers, and some of the help on the sideline, they'd have some heaters fired up for them. As soon as they came off. Classic picture. Remember Len Dawson, great quarterback for the Kansas
Lions. Ohio.
Thank you. Sitting on his helmet, smoking one. I don't know how he was holding it, but could you imagine coming off the field, Eric, after a long punt return for a touchdown, and you go over there, someone has a aficionado for you, one of the top of the line smokes for you?
I would have yelled out, "Fire that shit up."
As you're going into the end zone, right?
Right.
Yeah. I always see these guys do. What does this mean now when these guys do this on defense?
I have no idea. Maybe Dirty
either.
Sanchez.
Hey, which you know about, Frankie.
Nah, you just keep drinking. You just keep smoking that girthy cigar. You'll be fine. Hey, so yeah, I don't know where to go from that.
Let's go.
Frank, I
go
just
to
want to
that.
give you a compliment.
Let's go with I was right. And if you can rush Cincinnati, you can beat them.
Yeah,
you were right,
no.
Matt. You were right. You had it down.
Refresh my memory and refresh the listeners' memory on how right you were and what did you say?
What I said was, to me, Cincinnati Bengals, they're like the Golden State Warriors of football, right? They shoot a lot of threes, which in football terms would be them throwing long balls and making big plays, and that's how they score. And if you're willing to play that style of football, they're probably going to beat you because they're better at it than you. But if you have a smash mouth team, and I'm not saying Kansas City was on offense, but they did little different things that they tried to run the ball and they threw little dink and dunks and got them played. But on defense, they were able to rush Joe Burrow and not let them sit back and just throw the ball around. They had, and that's what I felt like everybody in the AFC North was able to do to them, to slow that down. Rush the passer, get a lot of pressure on him. And of course, because they're great players, they make plays, but you limit those. And I think Kansas City did a great job of doing that because when it was all said and done, what won the game? A sack. Mm-hmm. Or gave Kansas City a chance to win it, right? It was a sack.
Right. No, you're right.
And Chris Jones was a beast. I mean, remember the first 4 dropbacks?
Yeah.
He got sacked 4 times, and actually 4 out of 6 dropbacks, he got sacked. And that was probably a shocker after being clean in the pocket the week prior against Buffalo. He was very confident in that pocket until he got thrown down 4 times. You saw little big eyes, right? The Cool Joe. Yeah. Cool Joe just had a little talk with those guys, and the next 31 passes that he dropped back for were 0 sacks. So they made their adjustments. But to your point, Eric, that was the difference right there, obviously. It's not letting them get that long ball except for that 4th and 12.
They gave up a 3rd and 16. They gave up a 4th and 12. But when you look at those plays, a lot of them, they're just throwing it up, and those guys were going up and getting it. Yeah. It's not like they were. It's not like they were. These drives were sustained because of those guys making big plays. It was just not. It was not because they were just grinding it out. We're going to get 6, 7 here. We're going to get. They weren't doing that. They fall back behind the chains, make a big play. Fall behind the chains, make a big play, and that eventually got them in trouble.
No, it makes perfect sense because the last turnover of the game was that trying to go over the top, and they got the interception, which gave them the ball back. If I'm not mistaken, is that right?
They gave them back; they just didn't score.
Okay, right. That's right. Well, yeah. So what the point I'm trying to make is, I saw a lot of Burrow throwing that. That deep out route that seemed to be working for him because they probably were taking away the ball over the top. And, Burrow, the pressure now, a lot of that pressure came fast. So I don't care if you're throwing a short route or you're waiting for the receivers to get open downfield. But I would imagine some of those sacks those routes were trying to get developed downfield and they were just taking it away from him. And he was being a little stubborn. Trying to do that. So to your point, Eric, makes perfect sense that they, took it away from what Cincinnati's bread and butter was. And, ultimately it proved to be a successful formula defensively.
Yeah,
correct, Frankie. How about the rush? Eric made a point last week, Buffalo's negated rush due to the snow. And that flipped the switch, right? They had a pretty level playing field, and those Kansas City Chiefs front 4, front 5 got after him a little bit more aggressively and got people in his face.
Yeah, and we're talking about this game, and Cincinnati very well had a chance to win it. They had the ball with more than 2 minutes to go, right, and weren't able to go score. But this game, because of that rush, could have gotten ugly early if Cincinnati's defense doesn't hold up and hold them to those two field goals.
Right.
They kicked the 2 field goals. It was 6-0, and then so it could have gotten ugly. And then they went up another score and had the ball, and then Mahomes had the unfortunate fumble. So things could have been a lot different if not for things like that, right?
Yeah, no,
did you go ahead, Frank?
and to your point, Mike, as far as rushing a passer in the snow, you know, I think for me, I always like playing on grass because I liked wearing the longer cleat and really getting. I mean, you get some grip with the cleat in the grass, or it's when I was playing in, Anaheim, we play on dirt, versus the turf. Some of that older turf, like playing in Philadelphia. I mean that you couldn't. I mean that was god awful turf. Pittsburgh was god awful turf back in the day. Houston was god awful turf. I mean, you don't have the grip that they have on these AstroTurf fields now. Now, having said that, Buffalo, I don't know what their excuse was other than there might have been a little slick there, and it slowed them down on their pass rush.
I would think, but here's the thing. It was a little slick, obviously, because of the snow, but they're without Von Miller, they're not the same pass rushers as the Chiefs are as a collective group. I mean, when you're talking about Frank Clark, you're talking about Jones, you're talking about all these guys. They had a whole bunch of guys who were making plays, whereas Buffalo didn't. Their main guy was out, and then no one made plays, and they're playing on snow. So the track was a little better for these Frank Clark and all these guys, and they were better at it.
Absolutely. I mean, would we agree, the three of us at least, that the two best teams are going to the Super Bowl?
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't?
No. It'd be boring if I did. Two, we talked about why Kansas City won. Now, I thought Cincinnati, which is, in the past couple of years watching them, they're always a second half team and coming back, and you guys have all seen what they've been able to do in the second half. Is, I'm so, and I don't want to go down this path, but you know what? I'm going to do it because it's all over the media about the officiating. And, I listen, that last hit on the quarterback on Mahomes out of bounds, it was a late hit, and it would deserve a 15-yard penalty. But my point is, and this happened to Cincinnati in the Super Bowl last year against the Rams. Why do the referees? It seems like in that Super Bowl game and in this AFC Championship, they just kind of, I don't know, their judgment just seems to be lacking, when it comes to Cincinnati. And I saw some, like, on that punt return that set up a midfield and put them in field position where they could ultimately kick the field goal. I thought, and Eric, you'd know this better than any of us, I thought there were some questionable blocks by Kansas City, one in particular that just kind of got ignored.
He saved it. He saved it. He saved it. You know how it goes. Save it, Frank. You know it. He saved it.
Is that it? He saved
it. That means just throw your hands up and run into him. He saved it. That's okay. That's okay. When we're talking about that, and if we not minus the refs, we're going to talk about that play right there. It was dumb of Cincinnati to kick the ball straight down the middle of the field.
Good point.
With the game,
it's vulnerable. It's so vulnerable.
You're going to give them an opportunity to return either direction?
Right. Yeah.
Kick it out of bounds.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Point.
So that's that was dumb.
And that rookie, the rookie Moore, was benched earlier in the year, and their lead punt returner, kickoff returner, got injured during the game. And this is the cat is a rookie. Moore's a rookie.
Yeah.
And what an asset he was. And we're going to talk about the rookie influence that Kansas City had. They had 10 draft choices this year, 9 guys dressed on Sunday, and they all contributed, which is amazing, especially in this era, what they're asking them to do. But to your point, Eric, I mean, if you're returning the punt, your guy's safe. He goes like this, but if you're the guy covering the punt, you're all over that official. He's blocking me in the back. He's blocking me in the back.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I'm safe. So if I commit a face mask,
I'm saving it.
And I throw my hands up in the air.
So what happens is, a lot of returner coaches have used this to save it as a block. So you're running into the guy, but you throw your hands up, so you just keep running. So you technically not blocking him. You just You're just shielding him.
Well,
You're glued, yeah. Yeah, shield.
I
Hey,
guess,
hey,
I
see,
guess that's better
as
than
much,
that's better than
look,
nothing, right?
here's the problem. As much special teams as Frank stands to play, he don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I
See, it
know.
would be a problem for me.
Yeah. No, I was never taught
Hey, did I
to throw
return to
my
me when you were out
no.
there?
Listen, first of all, I was never stupid enough to block a guy in the back. I'd rather not. I mean, I just does. It's beyond the pale to me. This, that kind of penalty. I mean, and I know I'm being, probably, hard on the guy. I mean, and it's not like I committed penalties, sure, some holds here and there as a linebacker, but yeah, can't ever remember blocking a guy in the back, and it's just stupid.
It's lazy. It's lazy.
Yeah, it's you get out of position. It's just a lack of discipline, and that thing out of bounds too. Lack of discipline. To be honest with you, I had a coach in college that said, "Hey, it's an ultimate selfish act." I mean, you can't hurt the team. You can't hurt the team like that. But I want to talk about the officiating. Why is the officiating?
I got my colors on.
Yeah, you do. I'm really down on the officiating, and it's not just that game. It's throughout the year. But it's the NFL's created this monster, and it's not just football. It's baseball. It's basketball too. There are so many judgment calls by the officials that there's no way they can, be consistent. I mean, you're only human. You've got different officials making different judgment calls. You're going to get a lot of inconsistencies here, and I guess we just got to swallow it and take it. But I just think that sucks.
It really does. I mean, and because they're not really letting the players decide it. And granted, at the end of the game, Joseph Asai did to push Mahomes out of bounds. But if you go back earlier in the game, Joe Mixon was hit out of bounds just the same way.
Further.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's right. Exactly what I'm saying.
The thing is, like you said, because it's the NFL, these guys aren't being held accountable. There's nothing when they walk away, they don't have to face the music like one of us. If I fumble a ball or Mike throws an interception or Frank gets beat for a touchdown, they don't have to go in front of the media and tell what happened. They don't have to do any of that. And so they just walk away, and it's okay. They're not being held accountable for deciding the outcome of these games. Just think about all this, like games like that. Think about the Saints in the past years. Just think with games on the line to go to the Super Bowl, and the players are not able to make the decision of who goes. How
about the immaculate reception we talked about weeks ago? Even that judgment goes back 1972. But to your point, Eric, keep going.
Well, wait, go back to that. What about was the Immaculate Conception? Was it not a reception?
Well, they didn't have enough replay. They didn't have enough replay for it, so they just continued the game on film. They didn't shorten the game. As soon as he went in the end zone, they ruled touchdown. They never went to a replay. John Madden, Al Davis, and all those individuals over there were going crazy. But fast forward, here we are, 40 plus years later. We're still talking about these human errors, the inconsistencies. I mean, granted, we all have children, right? We coach games, or we went to games as spectators, as a parent supporting our children, and the officiating at some of these events. You got to keep your mouth shut. I mean, I don't want to be the asshole that gets asked to leave the stadium because I'm defacing my son, or the officiating on the playing pitch.
It's funny,
the rink or whatever.
It's funny you say that, because I was escorted off the field one time, and let me tell you, and it's like a seventh grade, but I'm going to tell you this. I own it. All right, I own it. But here's what happened: is these officials, I don't care. In this case, it's grade school, high school, college, pros, and like Eric's saying, there's no accountability, and I think it's a bunch of bullshit. They need to be accountable. All right, but I understand why the NFL doesn't do it, because that opens up a whole can of worms. But in this particular case I'm talking about, so this official says to one of he was irate on the sidelines, but his irate was towards what happened on the field as far as a play. He wasn't directing any anger at the officials. He wasn't directing any anger at any of the players, his players or the other players. He just was acting like an idiot. And the official says to him, quit acting like, he said something, quit acting like this or that, like a jerk or something like that. And I said to the official, and I'm like, well, wait a second here. So you get to talk to us like we're punks, all right? But we can't talk to you like you're punks. And I said to him, I said, you can't talk to him like that. And I probably said, that's bullshit. Bam, bam. He didn't like that because I had a point. All right. And he tossed me. And I'll tell you what, that was the loneliest, longest walk I ever made to the parking lot in front of all the fans. But God damn it, I mean, I didn't in a way. Why do I have to take the officials' bullshit?
Hey, my mother would have said, I've been put out of better places than this.
I love your mother. I love it. You're right.
Here's a scenario, Frank. You had one, going to one of your children's games and everything. I was a professional athlete at this time it happened. We're playing Tampa Bay. I'm playing for the Steelers. Cordell's in the game, playing quarterback. Cowher pulls him out. I go in. A tip pass for interception happens. Cowher takes me out, blah, blah, blah. Cordell goes back in, and I'm at the end of the bench, and I'm watching our defense on the field, and there was a blatant pick call, blatant pick right in front of me, and the official went to grab his flag, and he stopped, and I said, you horseshit piece of jagoff. You're sorry. You saw that right in front of you. You didn't have the nuts to drop that flag right there. He goes, oh, how'd you do when you played? Call me out. And I just said, you blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, the other flag goes up 15 yards from me. Cowher's at the other end of the field. He gives me that glare with that chin going about 15 yards towards me. And I just shake my head and I just put my head down like I was so freaking embarrassed. I didn't get back in the game, but he had a conversation with afterwards. I said, Bill, we've all been in those situations where emotions take over. I was wrong. We weren't the better team, and I wasn't the better player today. And we absolutely lost that game.
Browns fans, you're listening to In the Dog Pound with Mike Tomczak, Eric Metcalf, Frank Stamms, talking playoff football, talking the referees coming out of the Kansas City-Cincinnati game. Listen, Cincinnati's fault for letting it be so close, to put it in the hands of the referees. Right. And should never let that happen. I remember playing a little basketball in high school. We had a pretty good team. That was always the thing. Coach always said, hey, don't make it you don't want to be close enough where the officials can control the game. And then that's what happened.
I feel like you were the type of basketball player where the coach said, use all your fouls.
Yeah, exactly. So people ask me, for sure. People ask me, they said, what position did you play on the basketball team? I said, I inbounds the ball. Right. And I rebounded. That was it. Right. I inbounded and I rebounded. That was the only two times I touched it.
The major point about this is there's no accountability. And so, it's these guys, I think if they were fined, if they had to watch film and do things like that, then they took money from them, then they think more about these calls. They pay attention. But a lot of times, as we all know, they make calls knowing that the booth can help them out, right? Mm-hmm. Or don't make calls because they know the booth can change it. But that means that you don't have to be that interested in it. You don't have to really look and pay attention. It's because you're relying on technology. And I think there's a way where technology can help this game. And although we don't want the games to be 5 hours long, we want them to be right. We want it to be refereed right, especially when we're talking about going to the Super Bowl, right?
Right. That's what the point Zach Taylor was trying to get across. When they went to fourth down, getting ready to punt, and then they had that repeat down. It ended up being a first down at the end of the day after they had the holding call. And what happens with clock issue, they always keep the official clock on the field. And it didn't coincide with the stadium. So right before the ball snapped, or as soon as the ball was snapped, this guy comes in, waves a play off, and the play's going on.
Yeah.
Yep. Comes back, okay, goes to 4th and 8, punt team's out there, and all of a sudden they said, no, we got to replay it down. They ended up sacking, Cincinnati ends up sacking Kansas City. Zach Taylor finally gets some reprieve, and then they have a holding call on the punt return team, and then Kansas City's back on the field. I think they ended up getting. I don't think they scored
a holding call on the receiver, the DB versus the receiver.
Correct.
And then they got
on a gunner, and they got the first down. Correct. Yeah. So it was a melee. You know, you look at that game from a standpoint. You want it to be clean, but to answer you guys' question, you said you wish they were held accountable. I do know for a fact they have one pool reporter, AP, UPR, or whoever. They get to talk to the official, the lead referee after the game. There's one reporter. I never see those published. You guys ever see those comments published about an official officiating a game? You know, the NFL doesn't want to, you know, allow this thing to have a hangover with the officiating, right? They want to move on. It's a clean game. We got the two best teams supposedly, but there are a lot of people that think there might be some. You see that picture I sent you guys?
Yeah,
like the jersey exchange with Mahomes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one with the cheerleaders. Oh no, that one? No, I didn't. No,
that was the black and white one. That was the black and white one.
Yeah, I think I got that other one. I wasn't sure, but you're right. You can't F with the integrity of the game as far as the NFL is concerned, and you guys know this. And I'm sure it still exists. You walk into that locker room. I'll never forget on game day, they've got two posters there. And what are the posters? One, it tells you better not gamble on sports or you're gone. And the other one is your dress code, because man, they one is for the integrity, the other one is they're trying to protect the brand. And you know, hey, I get it. They just upped the salary cap another $16 million for next year, another record. And of course, each year it's going to be another record because it's at a record level now, and any increase is going to do that.
And we're going to keep watching it.
Yeah, and they're going to keep playing, and they're not going to do anything for the retired players whatsoever. They give us maybe another, I think it was $25 we got a month this past go around.
Yeah, and to all your listeners going live here on Facebook, you know, we're guys that YouTube. Okay, YouTube, whatever your listening device is and everything. However, we're not getting paid to do it. This is out of the goodness of our heart to share Browns Nation with our feelings internally and around the league and everything. And with that being said, guys, you know, another $16 million that are going to the salary cap. You know, I've always had an issue with this, and you guys might agree or disagree, but the 53-man roster, right? They're never activated the full roster on game day. And you would think with a 17 regular season schedule that you might need all those cats out there at some point during the course of the season. And it wasn't until 1991, guys, that they had that the third quarterback was a designated quarterback. He was the 46th guy that dressed. Right. And he could only play if it was an emergency. So what happened? I see Garoppolo and I see Trey Lance on a sideline for the San Francisco 49ers. Both players go down, and they're thinking about putting the fullback, number 44, the fullback at quarterback, and also
Juszczyk.
Yeah, Juszczyk, and they also had McCaffrey, you know, for a couple plays. But I got to think that this league, you know, if I'm somebody that's putting millions and billions of dollars into advertising, if I'm CBS, Fox, and all these other affiliates, I want the best product in the field. I mean, I was ready to turn that TV off after, you know, those quarterbacks got hurt because it was embarrassing. If you were a quarterback,
here's the way I feel about it. If you're getting paid and you're on the sidelines, if you're getting paid, even if you're in the stands, I'll tell you, you should be able to play in the game. Now, you know, let me tell you a story about a guy that I know came out of Notre Dame, went to the New England Patriots, and I'll give you the fast forward version of this. So he ends up this is 1967. He's telling me the story. 68. He goes to the Boston Patriots. All right. And he ends up making it all the way, you know, to the last cuts. But they finally said, hey, listen, we got to make room for this high draft choice. But we like you and we want you to stick around. You know how that works. All right. We're going to, you know, we might call you up. All right. He says, so sure. He sticks around. He goes down to downtown Boston, hangs out with his buddy. They said, we're going to leave you a couple of tickets for the opener. We want you to come up to the game. So, you know, he's sticking around, and he and his buddy go up to the opener, and they start tailgating early. And they're completely sauced when they go into the game. All right. And the team knows that he's there because he picked up the tickets. Right. So they sit down in their seats. All right. And his buddy says, hey, I'm going to go get a beer. His buddy gets the beer. This is a true story. over the loudspeaker, as his buddies getting the beer, they announce his name. They said, "Will Bob Gladio please report to the home team locker room?" And he can't believe it. All right, Bob Gladio. So he goes down to the home team locker room, says, "Bob, we need you to go." All right, because the guy that they kept gets hurt in warmups. So he suits up and they go out on the field. And he lines up on the kickoff team. And in the meantime, his buddy returns to the seat saying, "Where the hell's my friend?" He's got a couple of beers. And Bob goes down there. He makes the tackle. And the public address says, "Bob Gladio on the tackle." This guy's, he can't freaking believe it, sitting in the seats. The guy was sitting there 20 minutes ago next to him, and now he's running down the field and tackle. Now that's all time right there.
Hey, Bill's still doing that shit.
Yeah. It's the culture there in New England, right? But if you're on the roster, I mean, this shit all about the rules. If you're getting paid and you're in that stadium, I think you should be able to play. They said it was a UCL tear. Yeah. And I said, nah, the guy's got to be able to throw the ball, but I guess I had no idea he was hurt that bad.
I was thinking the same thing. And if nothing else, you got to have 3 quarterbacks. It's a volatile position. I mean, they all are, but you gotta have guys who can come in and play the position to make. If you're trying to protect the game, that didn't look like a football game. Not a championship game for sure. Once Brock Purdy could not throw the ball, that was not a championship football game. That was just some dudes out there running around because they were limited. And so because they don't have that third quarterback anymore, they're not able to get down. And that made it very unfun. It made it unfun unless you're a Philadelphia Eagle.
But you know what? I look at it like this. Hey, you know what? That's just tough. It's not about what the fan. Hey, this might be hard to swallow, but it's not about what the fans want to see. It's not about what we want to view on television. It's about you get rewarded because you put and I don't say this in a malicious way, but you earn the right to eliminate their quarterbacks.
I'm with you on that because which everybody's talking about. If Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, then Frisco's in the game. Well, if they protect his ass, then then he wouldn't have got hurt. But because they couldn't block Hassan Reddick, that's why he got hurt. Because they couldn't block Hassan Reddick, that's why Josh Johnson got hurt. So I get what you're saying in that respect because Philadelphia created that. They weren't trying to; it just happened.
Right, and that might have been the scenario. Had they called an incompletion that 4th down play to Smith on the left sideline on 4th down.
Right.
They might have got the ball in better field position, and that injury might have never taken place. And we'll live to talk about that another day here in the Dog Pound, raw and unfiltered. Eric Metcalf, Frank Stams, Mike Tomczak in the bullpen. We got Leroy Horde and Hanford Dixon. They're out traveling, making a living, and we're out here just talking serious stuff. But back to that Philadelphia game, guys. I mean, it was quite evident in my mind's eye that the better team got after him right away. I mean, the get-go. They were fresh. Those guys, the guys they brought in, give Howie Rosen credit, the general manager. He didn't bring 2 defensive linemen. He didn't bring 1 defensive lineman into the team midway through the year when Davis, their number 1 draft choice from Georgia, got hurt. He brought 2 studs in, and you saw the dividends that rewarded at the end of the year with those guys getting their reps and everything. I just, offensive line, defensive line, I thought Philadelphia is one of the stout teams in the league, from that standpoint. For example, 39 rushing touchdowns, Eric. 39 rushing touchdowns for Philadelphia. 78 sacks for Philadelphia. A handful away from the Bears record of 85. So they control the line of scrimmage, would you say?
They definitely did. I mean, when you're talking about Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh being your 2nd and 3rd defensive tackles, that's what you call depth right there, right? And of course, they're older guys, but if they don't have to play the whole game, they can come in fresh and make plays. They were wreaking havoc on that offensive line, and it started from the beginning, And so it made it hard, and everybody talking about Kyle Shanahan and why is he trying to block Hassan Reddick with a tight end? Well, they run play action football. That's what they've been doing all year to get him there.
Yeah. And they expected him to block him, right? They expected him to block him. At least hold him out for 3.5 seconds.
Right. He just couldn't do it.
Eric, you said something midway through the podcast this year that you would play for free. Would Philadelphia Eagles been a team that you would have played free for?
If everybody else played for free. You must throw that part in.
Right.
You must throw that part in.
I ain't making anybody else money.
Right. It's Philadelphia. I like those guys because I feel like they can play any style of football. If you want to get grimy, they can do it. Rushing the ball and stopping the run. If you want to spread it out, and they can do it, and they can stop that. And although they didn't throw the ball well on Sunday, they still were able to do enough to that San Francisco 49er defense that frustrated them guys, made them get a lot of penalties, and keep moving the ball, which eventually won them the game.
Here's what I like about Philadelphia. San Francisco, they had their issues offensively, and you could say, okay, that's why they didn't score more points. But let me tell you, there was nothing wrong with the San Francisco defense. And what did they end up? How many points did they end up scoring? Did they end up scoring 30 points on them?
31
points. And that's one of the better defenses in the league. And I know it wasn't. I'm thinking back. How did they do it? Was it pretty? They probably got the ball. They probably turned the ball over on downs, got more possessions than they normally would. But still, they did. And this is what it's important to me, is they did exactly what they were supposed to do against a team that was suffering. And they didn't make it close, and they won going away with it. And that's what, looking at this matchup, the Eagles in Kansas City, I like at 2 points. I really like Philadelphia because, and this is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist in me, is coming out of that Kansas City game. The NFL doesn't even always the best games, in my opinion, whether it's
championship,
whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. You don't want to know that the umpires or the referees exist. And I think those referees are going to keep the flags in their pockets and let them play. And I think that's an environment that frickin' Philadelphia will thrive in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, Philadelphia can play any style, and I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for KC to stop that RPO game, which Philadelphia does well at. And I mean, they didn't even really run Jalen Hurts in the beginning. They didn't do it until the end when Frisco knew they were going to run the ball. But I think that's going to be hard. But for some reason, something in my gut is telling me that KC still wins this game.
How do they win it?
I think the Michael Jordan of football right now does it. I mean, I think he gets a little healthier over these next.
All right, Tony Romo. All right, Tony Romo, with all these basketball analogies. Jiminy Christmas.
Hey,
Romo. He's magic. Basketball point guard. Hey, Romo. But go ahead, Eric. I'm not calling you. No, I'm calling you Michael Jordan.
No,
that's legit, man. The guy's a playmaker.
He's a playmaker. I think with 2 weeks, I think with 2 weeks, it gets a little bit healthier, and I think they're able to open up the playbook a little bit more. I think, with Tyreek Hill, they're a very good team. They're very explosive, but he had to force him the ball. He was one of those guys who wanted the ball a lot, and so they had to. But now you see, without him, he spreads it around, and they were down 3 receivers. They were down 3 receivers in that game. All 3
Are they going to be back for the Super Bowl?
I'm sure they will. I mean,
I'm sure who's not going to run out of that tunnel, And so
right on.
I just like how he was able to distribute the ball, and Kelsey wasn't supposed to play, but played hurt.
What was wrong with Kelsey?
He hurt his back in practice.
Friday.
Talking about he wasn't going to play. He might not play. And so
actually, Thursday night he was rump shaking.
So these guys, I think that offense and this coaching, I think they're good enough to do the job because they just make plays.
Number 11,
Kelsey.
Number 11 for Kansas City. Scanty.
Valdez.
Yeah,
Valdez
Scantling, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. You know what's crazy about him in that game, and a lot of people probably don't think about this, is we had a guy in Green Bay complaining that he didn't have any good receivers and all that. And then he was one of them, and look what he does in the championship game. Right?
And he came from Green Bay to Kansas City, and right. Mahomes, I heard him in an interview saying that Scanty and he were scout team players their first year, and they hooked up and they found some chemistry, and then finally he matured and found a role once Hill left and everything. I just think that's a beautiful story. And, we know players that have been on practice squads that have gone on to have tremendous careers, given the right opportunity. And, he's one guy that really took advantage of it.
Yeah.
Valdez Scantling. Wow.
Especially in the
you never know, guys.
Well, Mike, tell me, you were talking to me the other day about that offensive line for Philadelphia. And aren't they, didn't you say they were like, ridiculously, good?
Athletic.
And then you said the right tackle was like 6'8", 320 or something like that.
Johnson's playing with an abductor injury. But these guys have had many snaps. I think they've only had one player that was out for a few snaps throughout the 17-game schedule. But it all starts with Kelsey at the center. I mean, I love the way he runs out of the huddle. I love the way he extends that ball up there, and he comes out off the line of scrimmage running. I mean, those duo blocks, Frank, as you know, as a linebacker, if you get movement with that tackle into that next level, the linebackers, sometimes you get blinded and you can't see where that running back is. You just get walloped and engulfed by these guys. But the thing that really stood out to me and that kind of defined this offensive line was the tight camera angle on those quarterback sneaks. They were like that. That rugby style.
That scrum that they do, how low those dudes get, you can tell I don't know how they work on it, but they work on that because they get lower than everybody. They were number one in the league. What were they, 80% throughout?
Yes.
They were 80% throughout the season on fourth down because of those scrums. And even at the goal line, I was like, they're too far. They're not going to make this. And he got 2-3 yards into the end zone because of this scrum, the way they're pushing.
I do remember briefly that Bill Belichick, throughout the course of the week when he's installing the game plan, he'd stand up there in front of that projector. He would talk about the quarterback sneak, Eric, for about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Every game, he would find a niche in their defense. When we get this look, when you got a 3 technique and a 4 technique, there's no snap count. You goose to center, you get your 2 or 3 yards, take some free yardage. And he was always in the hidden yardage somehow, some way, special teams, little quarterback sneaks. And I just, studying the game, that's probably the most successful play on the offensive side of the ball. The quarterback sneak, percentage-wise.
However,
rarely.
However, Kansas City's terrible at it.
Yes.
But they're allowed to push. When you say successful, what's the goal?
I think it's 95% or better.
No, what are you trying to achieve with the quarterback sneak?
1 yard movement.
Okay, so
just 1 yard.
Okay, so if you're trying to get 1 yard, okay, yeah, I'll give you that. But if you're trying to score a touchdown, I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around when you say it's the most successful.
I guess percentage-wise of execution.
As far as what you're trying to accomplish, a first down.
Well, not only first down, just positive yards. I mean, I remember we used to quarterback sneak on 2nd and 3. We used to quarterback sneak on 3rd and 5, and get it to 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. Yeah.
Based on the look.
So sometimes I can't outwit a Notre Dame graduate, but I try to do my best talking about the quarterback sneak and saying it's a positive. Saying it's a positive play.
But here's the thing.
Don't get sensitive because
let's think about this.
There's no sensitive. I'm going. I'll see you. I'm leaving.
Let's think about this though. Let's think about this. Oh God. Oh God. Oh.
That's what it's all about, boy. That's what it's all about.
Oh God. Put that shit on.
37 years ago, I had the best shower because I knew I was going out as a world champion. It was the greatest
feeling.
Save that
for next week.
Right. I will.
Hey, but back to the quarterback sneak and the percentage. I don't know what the percentage is. I don't know if he's right, but I'm just going to believe him because he has shit written down. So I'm gonna believe him. But when you really think about this, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, what have you, it makes more sense to try that as opposed to turn around and hand the ball to somebody who's 3 or 4 yards back and asking them to get 6 to get 1.
Right.
And San Francisco on 4th and 2 turned it through a pitch inside pitch sweep. They ran an ISO. They pitched it to McCaffrey, and he got hit in the backfield. He was 6 yards deep in the backfield. So, listen, it's a great feeling. Though, the emotion you get in the huddle when you get that first down, like when those guys root hog. It's called a root hog, I believe. When you get down like a hog, real low. And Frank, you remember the 9-on-7 scrimmages? Goal line scrimmages. I mean, did you ever put your hand on the ground? Did you ever put your hand on the ground and try to get real low and outmask the guy in front of you?
Every once in a while, I was in short yardage goal line. I put my hand in the dirt. Right. I never liked doing it, but hey, you kick everybody down, put everybody in gaps, and go. A couple of things that I want to talk to. We got about 10, 15 minutes left. Is what'd you think? What did you think about Kelsey telling the Cincinnati mayor that they need to know their role?
Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
You jabroni.
Oh my God.
You jabroni.
Yeah, what's a jabroni? What's a jabroni?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a Cleveland. He's from Cleveland, right?
I thought one of you Ohio guys would have been able to tell me that.
Cleveland Heights, yeah.
But is that some Ohio language? I don't know.
If it is, it's lost on me. I want to say I heard that.
I know we can translate it. I know we can translate it.
Right. Yeah.
Hey Siri, what does jabroni mean?
But in going back to that statement, and Kelsey and all that, I think it's a bad thing because Cincinnati was giving them so much bulletin board material. They talk so much. The player, the Burrowhead, the Burrow is Mahomes' father. Why are you doing this?
Wow.
Why are you doing this to these guys as if they've never been in these big games before? You're the newbie. They've been there.
Right.
And they beat him 3 times, though. They beat him 3 times.
Right. That's all the more reason why they should have walked in just as cool and calm and collected. Right.
Because why do you want
to piss somebody off? Right.
Why do you fire them up?
It just doesn't make any sense. Why do you fire them up? Makes no sense.
Fire them up, right?
Did that ever get you? Did it bulletin board material? I never took into account that it would motivate me any more or any less.
It motivated me.
Except when you get in a huddle, when they after the play, they'd be calling your ass out, and I say, "Hey, number 21 over there, man, he's been talking shit to me, so we got to take him out." Hey, that's the only material I needed.
But if you're talking it before and then you're still talking it on during the game, that just motivates. I mean, I know I've been on the field and had guys talking shit to me, and I would tell guys stuff like, "Hey, take your ass to the sideline, and when you get home, take my poster off your wall."
Yeah. Hey, you guys remember that linebacker Scott Studwell? He played for the Minnesota Vikings. Illinois. Right. Yeah. So we're playing him on a Thursday night, and we're down by a touchdown or 10 points or whatever. Long story short, I throw a touchdown pass, and I ran past Scott Studwell, and I'm talking smack to him. And I take 2 more steps, and Hilgenberg grabs me in the back of the shoulder pads, like one of those tackles you're not supposed to pull your back. And he goes, "Shut your mouth. You don't want to get him pissed off because I got to block him." So to your point, Eric, I don't have to block him, but I just he was right, and he was right.
Here's the best shit talking I've ever heard, and I just heard it this past summer or this past spring, and Mike was there with me. Bob Golick's talking. He's got an audience, and a guy named Bart Oates is in the audience, and Bart played center for the New York Giants. We all know that. And Golick's talking, and Golick was a damn good nose tackle. He says, "Yeah, I know Bart." He goes, he's got a tattoo on his right calf. And everybody's like, "What, tattoo on his right calf? How does he know that?" And Bob says, "Yeah, it says property of Bob Golick."
That's right. That was some good shit.
So anyways, I want to talk about the coach for Sirianni.
Yeah.
for
Nick
Philadelphia.
Nick Sirianni. Yeah,
So,
Sirianni came from IUP and Mount Union.
Yeah, Mount
Union. Yep.
I heard something interesting today that he coming out of Mount Union. He put in his application for a high school just in the Canton area, Canton South, and he never got a call. And yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that works out. And then of course he went to IUP, and then from there he went into the pros. But what I want to talk about, and I was thinking about this today, is what's the difference between Sirianni and Stefanski?
Oh my gosh, personality-wise, I think Philadelphia is a reflection of their head coach.
Hey.
He's a typical Philly guy. You know, he looks that part, that Italian tough guy from the South streets of Philly and everything. You know, that Rocky mentality. And I think the team is just a reflection of it.
One moment this year just can tell you that. After they beat the Indianapolis Colts, and he stood up on the bench and cussed everybody out in the Indianapolis.
Right.
Because he was talking about Frank Wright. Things like that. That shows you he cares not only about himself, but about everything and everybody around him. And Frank Wright is not even a part of his staff, but he cared about him as a mentor and bringing him along into this. And so he felt passionate. He was going to win that game no matter what. Right. Because he wanted to be able to fight for his guy, who technically wasn't his guy at that point, right? Because he was not on their team.
Saturday. Yes, right. Jeff Saturday was there at the time. And, you know, Jeff Saturday's name, guys, I mean, he's still the front runner for the Indianapolis Colts job, just to throw a bone in there. But, you know, that guy, I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
Well, we all saw this. Wright got the Carolina job.
Sean Payton, he's back in the league.
Sean Payton, they're talking to Denver. I saw a headline today that I think, did they come to a deal with Denver?
That's done. DeMeco Ryans went to Houston.
Do you guys remember when he played at Houston? I don't recall him.
He was very good.
Okay.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was very good. Good.
Well, the one thing I wanted to say about
kudos to him. That's awesome.
Sirianni, and you guys both, affirmed what I was thinking is he's full of emotion and passion. And that's what a lot of the game is. And this is what Stefanski needs to come with, is there some freaking emotion and some passion about, because I was thinking about this the other day. The game at that level, all these guys are talented. It's all about emotion.
Right.
It's all about channeling your emotion, now the right way, because you don't want it being channeled the wrong way. But it's all about channeling that emotion, and you gotta have somebody, a leader, that has that. I mean, and
you can't manufacture it, Frank. Frank, you can't manufacture it, right? I mean, it's you are who you are.
If you try to manufacture it, those guys will see that as you being phony, and that shit'll go south in a hurry.
Right.
And so what your wishes are.
It takes me back to like Steve Crosby when he was our offensive coordinator. And I don't know if you remember this, T-Zach, but he used to always say that, he might call a play that might be the worst play he could call against a particular defense.
Yep.
But if everybody was grimy enough and did their job, we could still make it work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean get a touchdown. It could be a successful play, gain 3-4 yards. That's successful, right? And so that's the kind of emotion that he felt like, I might do this, but you guys can take over.
Take ownership of it. Take ownership.
And I think right now we're in a situation with the Browns that it's like we call plays, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's not like we're gonna make it work.
No, it gets to that point, Eric, where it's almost like, you're checking plays off, right?
Right.
You're going down you're checking plays off instead of telling those guys next series, let's get a huddle right here together. Here's the bottom line, guys. This drive is extremely important. We're not putting football. We're going 4 downs.
Right.
Any little bit of emotions, but guys, that might be on their wish list this offseason, and maybe he might go to have an emotional offseason, come to Jesus moment, right? Because I think every coach in the NFL is trying to survive. And Stefanski's got to be on the hot seat right now, knowing that if he doesn't get his team in a position to at least compete in this league is moving forward, right? I mean, AFC North is getting stronger.
And just think about just imagine if Belichick had this offensive line and this run game that the Browns had. You know damn well he would come and say, "We're going to run the ball every single play. You better make it work."
Speaking of that, the Browns are, and so the Browns are about, I want to say $20, $30 million over the cap. So what happens? Where do they find the money? How do they get below the cap?
With the increase, even with the $16 million increase,
I'm pretty sure it's with the increase. I could be wrong, but still, they got to make some moves.
They got a commodity right there.
At is on the running game. I think we talked about this before on one of the shows. Is Kareem Hunt?
He's expendable, right?
I don't know if he's expendable, but I guess he is.
Financially.
I guess that's what. Yeah, I guess.
They always can go back to the bank. Their bank is Deshaun Watson, right? They can always go back and restructure his deal.
But Kareem is dispensable because you don't use it. That's why they should have got something for him.
Yeah,
to your point, Raekwon Smith, Eric, you called it, Eric. No, you did, Frank. You said they should have went after Raekwon Smith. Eric did. There you go.
Yeah, Eric did. Yeah.
But these are people, high paid grade people have to make these decisions. We're just slapdicks that are sitting around talking in the dog pound. That's all we do.
Yeah. Well, you've been listening to In the Dog Pound. Great show tonight. In the Dog Pound, raw and unfiltered, with Mike Tomczak, Eric Metcalf, Frank Stamps, Leroy Horde, and Hanford Dixon will be with us next week when we do our Super Bowl preview show, where we guarantee you the winners of the Super Bowl. But hey, great show tonight, guys. Thanks for doing it. Browns Nation, thanks for listening.
That's one heck of a cigar. That's one.
Hey,
that's one. Yeah.
On the way out, I would just like to say, I'm happy as hell Cincinnati did not win.
Oh, hey,
why? What? Were they just talking too much shit for you?
And they were, and they're a good team, but I just don't like them. And I don't mean those players. I mean just the Bengals.
The division rival, right?
I do not like them. So I tweeted before the game. I gotta wait, because I hope I do not lose my mind. If this game goes like I don't want it to go, I'm going to lose my mind. And then I tweeted after the game, I can keep my sanity.
Yeah, I love it. Keep speaking the truth, Eric. You're the best.
You guys are the best. All right, have a good night. Thanks. Adios.
See you, boys. Adios.